On day, Marcus insisted on taking my car for a business trip to Rockville, but that evening I received a call from the hotel. "Are you sure you want the condoms delivered to room 801? I froze instantly, wondering if they had the wrong number. But the caller accurately spoke Marcus's name. My heart sank instantly to my stomach. I activated the car's GPS tracking feature and found that the car was at the hotel directly across from my house. Hadn't Marcus said he was on a business trip? Filled with suspicion, I went to the hotel. There, I saw Marcus escorting a young, beautiful woman upstairs. My last shred of hope was utterly crushed. Instead of crying, I pulled out my phone. "A guest named Marcus at the hotel seems to have suffered a sudden heart attack. Please call an ambulance." I wanted him to know. Crossing me would be the biggest regret of his life. Before we continue, please subscribe to this channel and let us know in the comments where you're tuning in from. I never imagined that one day I'd be catching them in the act. A moment later, the room door was swiped open by the front desk attendant using a master key. The paramedics rushed inside without a word. The main light in the room was off, with only a dim wall sconce by the bed casting a sensual ambience over the entire space. The air was filled with the scent of shower gel and a blend of male and female hormones. It made my stomach churn. By the bathroom door, Marcus stood bare-chested, having just showered, with only a towel wrapped around his lower body. Drops of water slid down his sculpted abs, and in his arms, he held a woman, also wrapped tightly in a towel. Everyone who witnessed the scene was speechless with shock. The woman's long, wet hair lay draped over her shoulders as she buried her face in his chest, letting out a contented sigh. Hearing the door open, she turned around petulantly, as if to complain about whoever had interrupted their fun. Upon seeing the group of people suddenly flood the doorway, the woman instinctively let out a shriek, frantically trying to escape Marcus's embrace and find a place to hide. But once I recognized her, I froze on the spot. Because the woman was none other than Sarah, my best friend of 10 years. "Who are you people? How did you get in here?" Marcus roared, instinctively pulling Sarah behind him. The front desk attendant looked utterly bewildered. "Didn't the lady next to you say that the guest in this room had a sudden heart attack?" Marcus saw me, Grace, standing behind the crowd and immediately understood that I was behind it. He impatiently waved the front desk attendant away. But his subsequent reaction was something I had never anticipated. There wasn't a trace of guilt or panic on his face. Instead, he shielded the flustered Sarah even more tightly behind him, completely blocking her with his body. He even thoughtfully pulled up her towel to cover any revealing glimpse. Yet, when he looked up at me, his demeanor completely shifted. His eyes were cold, tinged with disgust, and glared at me with fury, as if I were the shameless intruder, the one who ruined his perfect night. "Grace, are you stalking me? It's always the guilty who get defensive. Did you make this scene just to humiliate me?" I looked at his righteous, accusatory facade, and almost laughed from sheer anger. If he hadn't accidentally used my phone number for food delivery, I might have been kept in the dark by them both forever. My husband and my best friend, Sarah, embracing naked in the hotel. And now he was questioning me for invading his privacy? Sarah trembled behind him, like a startled rabbit, gazing at me timidly. Her lips parted, as if to speak, but Marcus's protective gesture silenced her. She spoke haltingly, her voice choked with tears, every word an attempt to absolve herself, painting herself as an innocent victim. Seeing my silence, as I merely stared at them with lifeless eyes, Marcus's anger intensified, and his tone grew even colder. "Don't look at me like that. We didn't do anything wrong. And can you stop being so paranoid and suspicious? You're acting like a lunatic." He shouted at me, his voice growing louder, as if my silence was a silent accusation, stinging his ridiculous pride. "If you two were so innocent, would you be getting a hotel room? Would you be buying condoms? Do you take me for a fool?" Marcus blushed crimson and argued stubbornly. "We've been married for 5 years. Don't you even have basic trust in me? Sarah and I were just discussing a project. She was at a work dinner tonight and clients got her drunk. Then she accidentally spilled wine on her clothes, so I kindly brought her to the hotel to wash up. Can't you think of anything decent? Discussing a project required adult novelty items? And stripping naked to go to the bathroom together? How could he say such a flimsy excuse with a straight face? Did he really think I was that stupid? I looked at him, at the man I had loved and trusted for 5 years. For the first time, I realized I had never truly known him. His handsome face was now etched with hypocrisy and selfishness. The eyes that once captivated me now held only disgust and impatience. I suppose he dared to be so arrogant. After her initial panic, Sarah also dared to hide behind him, looking at me with a mix of defiance and triumph. It was only because they were convinced I loved Marcus so deeply, enough to give up everything for him and forgive all his wrongdoings. They instinctively believed that I, Grace, was weak-willed, and even if I discovered all this, I would only cry and confront him. In the end, I would choose to forgive him after his insincere assurances, and even if I made a scene, I'd never dare escalate things and destroy his reputation. After all, in their minds, I was someone who would sacrifice herself for Marcus. Seeing that I remained unmoved, Marcus's patience wore thin. He took a step forward, looking down at me condescendingly, his voice laced with menace. Grace, I'm warning you, don't make a scene here. Escalating things won't benefit anyone. Besides, Sarah and I are innocent. You have no right to slander me. Now get home immediately, and I can pretend none of this happened. He was still so arrogant, trying to dismiss everything with a casual remark. He thought he was doing me a favor, giving me an easy way out. I looked at his hypocritical face, shielding Sarah while turning the blame on me, and at Sarah, hiding behind him, her eyes gleaming with victory. I suddenly laughed. Not just at my own foolishness, but at them, for picking me, a crazy one, of all people to cross. Seeing me laugh unexpectedly, Marcus and Sarah both froze. They had expected me to cry, to break down hysterically, but never to laugh. What are you laughing at? Marcus's brows furrowed tightly. My reaction made him uneasy. I didn't answer him, merely slowly raised my phone. On the screen, the red recording button was steadily blinking. From the moment the front desk attendant swiped open the door, I had already pressed record. I aimed the camera at the despicable cheats, clearly capturing Marcus's fury and Sarah's flustered panic. Then, I looked into Marcus's eyes, my voice resolute. A project discussion, indeed. Marcus, we're over. With that, I didn't give them any more time to react. I grabbed the clothes from the bed and threw them out the window. Then, amidst Marcus's furious shouts and Sarah's screams, I walked away without a backward glance. I left behind all the indignities of the past 5 years. Stepping out of the hotel, the night air filled my lungs, and only then did I realize my limbs were weak and my body was cold. I rushed into my car, closed the door, shutting out the world. In the enclosed space, the immense grief I had suppressed burst forth like a flood, instantly engulfing me. Tears poured uncontrollably from my eyes. I buried my face in the steering wheel and wept aloud, as if to cry out all the betrayal and hurt of the past 5 years. My heart felt torn into countless pieces, each one bleeding. Why them, of all people? One, the husband I had sworn to spend my life with. The other, the friend I thought I could trust implicitly. How could they do this to me? Their vows of eternal love now felt like ringing slaps, stinging my face with fiery pain. I don't know how long I cried, until my voice was hoarse and my tears had run dry. But outside the car, traffic flowed relentlessly. No one would stop for a second for my broken heart. I looked up, seeing my own reflection in the rearview mirror, eyes swollen and disheveled. A surge of intense hatred welled up inside me. Why should I cry for them? They weren't worth it. Divorce? To divorce so easily, to let them escape me and then legitimately be together? That would be letting them off too easily. I slowly wiped the tears from my face. A resolute glint flashed in my eyes. What I wanted wasn't divorce. What I wanted was to destroy their reputations and leave them with nothing. Late that night, I sat on the sofa, my mind becoming sharper. I found my tablet, which was linked to Marcus's phone via a shopping app, e.g., Amazon. When I saw his purchase history filled with an array of disgusting adult novelty items, I couldn't suppress a wave of nausea. In my mind, Marcus had always been a reserved and gentle man, even tender in bed. I never imagined he had such a perverted side. I exported all of Marcus and Sarah's chat history. Reading the chat history, I discovered they had been having an affair for 3 years. The first time was actually the day I returned from a business trip, bedridden with a severe flu. Marcus had braved the heavy rain to go out and buy me medicine, returning an hour later. At the time, seeing him soaked to the bone as he pulled the medicine from his coat and handed it to me, I was utterly moved. But who would have thought that in that hour he was gone, he had been at the hotel with Sarah, and buying my medicine was just an afterthought? I backed up all these pieces of evidence to the cloud and my personal hard drive. I immediately contacted a lawyer, compiling and sending them all the evidence I had. But they said this evidence only proved that my marriage with Marcus had broken down. It wasn't enough to make him leaving with no assets. I needed a larger net, one they couldn't escape or recover from. At dawn, I contacted one of the top private investigation agency in the industry. I tasked them with constantly monitoring Marcus and Sarah's movements. Now, our cards were on the table. It was a matter of who could gain the upper hand first. When first graduated, he was a penniless young man who couldn't even scrounge up $1,000. If my parents hadn't seen how determined I was to marry him and, taking pity on him, loaned him $5 million as startup capital, he wouldn't be where he is today. To thank me, he gave me 40% of the company's shares when he proposed. Although I had stepped back from the business in recent years to focus on being his supportive partner, I had quite a few of my people placed within the company. The financial CFO was David, a senior from my college days. He was always fair and selfless. He despised Marcus's methods. I dialed David's number. "David, it's me, Grace. Calling so early, is something wrong?" David acutely sensed that something was wrong. I didn't beat around the bush, I got straight to the point. "Are you at the office? I need all the company's financial statements from the past 3 years, especially all expenditures under Marcus's name. The more detailed, the better. I need you to keep this absolutely confidential." There was a few seconds of silence on the other end, then David sighed. "Did he do something to hurt you?" "Yes." My voice was flat. "All right, I understand. Give me some time, and I'll compile everything and send it to your private email." The following days were SP. And waiting. I moved back home and pretended everything was normal, eating and drinking as usual, as if nothing had happened. Marcus came home the next day. He never brought up that night's incident, but he was even more attentive and thoughtful than before. He bought me expensive gifts, cooked my favorite dishes himself, looked at me with deep affection, and whispered syrupy sweet talk. He thought that with these material things and his feigned tenderness, he could erase his betrayal. He thought he could make me revert to the obedient fool I once was, who always listened to him. During this time, Sarah also called me several times, subtly probing my attitude. Over the phone, she was crying hysterically, repeatedly saying I'm sorry, claiming she had too much to drink that night and leaned on Marcus, begging me not to misunderstand. I merely comforted her in the gentlest tone over the phone. "Silly girl, why would I misunderstand? We're best friends. I know you didn't do it on purpose," and Marcus explained everything to me. My generosity and understanding completely disarmed them. But they didn't know that, out of their sight, the net was tightening inch by inch. The private investigation agency sent me numerous photos and videos every day. They were seen kissing in the underground parking garage, intimately feeding each other in a fine dining restaurant, and spending weekends together at a countryside retreat. Each photo was like a knife slowly tearing at my already dead heart. But it also made my desire for revenge grow stronger. David told me that right after he exported the data, Marcus unilaterally changed all the account passwords. It seemed he was guarding against me. And the financial statements he sent further confirmed my suspicions. The money Marcus used to buy Sarah gifts was all embezzled company funds. Fearing that the truth would come out, he abused his position to create a fictitious project, transferring large sums of company money to his personal account. The destination of these funds could easily be traced. A Porsche sports car, numerous designer handbags, and even an expensive jewelry receipt for a diamond necklace named Beloved. Looking at this evidence, I smiled. No matter how well they hid it, I had finally caught them red-handed. Your day of reckoning is coming soon. The time was ripe, and I decided to act. That evening, when Marcus, with an apologetic and ingratiating smile, handed me a beautifully wrapped gift, I didn't coldly accept it as usual. I looked up at him and flashed a long-absent gentle smile. "Marcus, next week is our 5th wedding anniversary. Do you remember?" Marcus visibly froze for a moment, then his face lit up with joy. Of course I remember. Darling, I was just about to tell you. Look, this is your anniversary gift." He thought my softened stance meant I had been moved by his days of feigned affection. I didn't expose him, I simply went along with his words. "I haven't been myself lately, overthinking things and making things difficult for you. I've come to terms with it. It hasn't been easy for us to get to where we are today, and we shouldn't let small misunderstandings harm our relationship." My words, like a calming assurance, made him completely let down his guard. "Darling, I'm so happy you feel that way." He hugged me excitedly. "I was wrong too. I didn't give you enough security." I leaned into his embrace, inhaling the nauseating scent of him, my heart cold but my face still smiling. So, I looked up, gazing at him with anticipation. "How about we make this anniversary a grand celebration? Let's invite all our friends, family, and colleagues to witness our happiness." Of course, such a crucial day needed everyone to bear witness. Marcus readily agreed, even more enthusiastically than I had. In his eyes, this was not only proof of our reconciliation but also a perfect opportunity to show the world his happy family and successful career. If he could secure 1 or 2 sponsors, that would be even better. He immediately began preparations, booking the venue, drafting the guest list, busying himself happily with the preparations. And I dialed Sarah's number. "Sarah, Marcus and I are planning a 5th anniversary party. You absolutely have to come." On the other end of the phone, Sarah's voice was filled with surprise and a hint of subtle probing. "Grace, you aren't angry with me anymore?" "Silly girl, why would I be angry with you?" I said in a sincere tone. "What happened that day is in the past. You're my best friend, and how could I have such an important moment without you there? Indeed, how could I have it without you?" After a brief silence, Sarah accepted, her voice sounding almost tearfully joyful. "Grace, you're too kind to me. I really, thank you. I'll definitely be there." Over the next few days, Marcus and Sarah, believing they had fooled me, put on a charade of innocent camaraderie in front of me. They chose the venue for the party together, designed the flow of events, and Sarah even thoughtfully helped me pick out an evening gown and offered various suggestions. The more intimately close they were in front of me, the brighter the flames of revenge burned within me. Watching them act in front of me, watching their self-assured victory, I found it utterly laughable. They didn't know that every effort they put into this party was like adding a shovel of dirt to their own graves. The anniversary day finally arrived. The party was held in the hotel's largest ballroom, the very place where I had torn away their masks of deceit. I wanted them to end where they began. All our friends and family were present, their faces beaming with smiles of blessing, congratulating us, the model couple, on celebrating 5 years together. Marcus, in a crisp white suit, looked radiant. In a trance, I felt as if I was seeing the spirited young man from our wedding day again. He linked arms with me, moving among the guests, accepting everyone's compliments and well wishes, his face barely concealing his pride. Sarah, wearing a pink evening gown, stood nearby, quietly watching us. She was dressed especially exquisitely today, and the diamond necklace around her neck, in particular, sparkled under the lights, making my eyes ache. That was the beloved necklace Marcus had bought for her with company money. She walked up to me, deliberately puffed out her chest, making the necklace more prominent. "Grace, please don't misunderstand. Marcus gave me this necklace to make a statement." She thought I was unaware of the necklace's true origins, that I was still the fool kept in the dark. I looked up, my gaze falling on her diamond necklace, and smiled, genuinely praising it. "Why, how could I? That diamond necklace suits you perfectly." That necklace was designed by a French designer for his mistress. Later, when their affair was exposed, he was forced onto the streets, and the mistress, unable to bear the humiliation, committed suicide by jumping into a river. That diamond necklace couldn't be more fitting for Sarah. My calmness deflated her, and a flicker of resentment crossed her face. But in my heart, I was silently calculating the time to send them to their doom. The party proceeded as planned. Finally, it was time for the most anticipated moment. The host invited Marcus onto the stage to make his declaration of love for his wife. Marcus cleared his throat and walked to the center of the stage. He took the microphone, his gaze sweeping through the crowd, settling on me with feigned affection. 5 years, over 1,800 days and nights. I thank heaven for letting me meet the only one in my life, my wife, Grace. His voice, amplified by the sound system, filled the entire ballroom. She is kind, she is thoughtful, she stood by me through my toughest times. She is the foundation of my career, the brightest light in my life. Many people envy my success, but I want to say, the greatest success of my life was marrying Grace. A thunderous applause erupted from the audience. Marcus's father, Henry, and mother, Margaret, looked at me with satisfaction and relief. My friends were also touched that I had found such a good match. Only I knew how hypocritical, how sickening, those words were. The higher he lifted me, the harder he would fall. "Darling," Marcus extended his hand to me, "I love you. For every future 5 years, I hope to have you by my side." I smiled, lifted my dress, and walked gracefully onto the stage, placing my hand in his. The host, sensing the moment, handed me another microphone. "Ms. Grace, at this moment, what would you like to say to Mr. Marcus, and to all our guests present?" I took the microphone and scanned the entire room. All eyes were on me. I took a deep breath, and flashed a smile. "Thank you all for coming to Marcus and my 5th anniversary party. Today, I indeed have a very special gift to give my husband." I paused, then turned my gaze to the giant screen on the side of the stage. "This grand gift, I wonder if you can handle it." As my words fell, a flicker of confusion crossed Marcus's face. But he maintained his perfect smile, believing this was a carefully planned surprise from me. I pulled out my phone and calmly connected it to the giant screen mirroring device. With a soft hum, the huge screen lit up. First to appear was Marcus's purchase history of adult novelty items. It took 5 full slides to display all the records. This is the unspeakable side of Marcus, the good friend and good boss in your eyes. Before I could finish, Marcus rushed onto the stage as if bitten by a snake, frantically trying to shut off the screen. Are you out of your mind, Grace? But just as he finished speaking, a video began to play on the screen, the very one I recorded while catching them in the act at the hotel that day. Please don't misunderstand, everyone. These adult novelty items were all used on my best friend, Miss Sarah. In the video, Marcus, bare-chested, fiercely shielded Sarah, who was also wrapped only in a towel, roaring at me, who was holding the camera. Grace, are you stalking me? What right do you have to invade my privacy? Sarah and I were just discussing a project. Can't you think of anything decent? As the sound faded, the entire ballroom fell into a stunned silence. Everyone's smiles froze on their faces. Marcus's face instantly drained of color. His lips trembled, but he couldn't utter a single word. Sarah, standing in the audience, was struck by lightning. Her champagne glass clattered to the floor, shattering into pieces. She instinctively covered her mouth, staring at the screen in horror. I ignored their reactions and continued to share with the crowd. You might not know that my best friend and my husband had been secretly involved for 3 years. I pointed my hand at the pale-faced Sarah in the audience. Instantly, all eyes, like daggers, pierced her from all directions. Perhaps you'll be curious, saying these aren't enough to convict them. Don't worry, I have more photos here. On the screen, the images switched. One after another, high-definition photos began to play. They were kissing openly, oblivious to others, in the underground parking garage. Marcus was gently wiping sauce from Sarah's lips in a fine dining restaurant. They were wearing bathrobes, watching the sunset together on the balcony of a countryside retreat. This evidence exploded like a bombshell amidst the crowd. A collective gasp rippled through the room. Whispers and accusations, like a surging tide, threatened to engulf Marcus and Sarah. Marcus's parents, Henry and Margaret, trembled with rage. Margaret pointed at Marcus on stage, her lips turning purple, and she gasped for air before collapsing backward. Henry rushed onto the stage and slapped him, cursing Marcus out until he couldn't even lift his head. You are a disgrace to this family. Get out. The company's leader was embroiled in such a massive scandal, and the shareholders' faces grew increasingly grim. However, this was not the end. Perhaps you'll say I shouldn't air our dirty laundry in public. My voice resonated again, cold and clear. But what if their love was built on illegal actions? The screen switched again. What appeared were bank transfer records, company financial statements, and luxury item receipts. Marcus abused his position to embezzle $3.75 million in company funds. A portion of this money became the red Porsche sports car under Miss Sarah's name. On the screen, selfies of Sarah driving the Porsche sports car appeared. Another portion became the countless designer handbags on her person. On the screen, there were photos of Sarah on social media showcasing various luxury items. And the last portion became the diamond necklace named Beloved she is wearing around her neck today. As my words fell, all eyes zeroed in on the sparkling diamond necklace around Sarah's neck. She hastily covered her neck, but it was too late. In that moment, the necklace's glimmer was no longer brilliance, but damning evidence of her guilt. The entire ballroom erupted into chaos. No one had expected that Mr. Marcus, who appeared so successful and respectable on the outside, was actually such a scumbag behind closed doors. You beast! How could I have given birth to such a monster? Henry, Marcus's father, was consumed by rage, pointing at Marcus on stage and ranting and raved. The company shareholders could no longer sit still. They all stood up, staring at Marcus with fury, as if they wanted to devour him alive. Sarah, under the countless gazes of disdain and contempt, completely broke down. She shrieked, covering her face, and frantically tried to escape the crowd like a pariah, but was surrounded by angry guests, unable to move. A second of hesitation flickered across Marcus's face in the center of the stage. Then, without hesitation, he dropped heavily to his knees with a thud, facing me. Darling, I was wrong. I truly was wrong. His voice thick with tears, he clung to my legs, weeping like a child. It's all my fault. I was led astray by greed and lust. I've wronged you. Please, for the sake of our 5 years of marriage, give me another chance. He cried heartbrokenly, repeatedly banging his forehead on the stage, each thud echoing dully. Seeing my unmoved state, he suddenly pointed at Sarah in the audience, his face contorted with intense malice. It was her. She seduced me. She said that a man who only stayed with one wife his whole life was boring, and you're so dull in bed. I had been suppressing myself for too long, but darling, you're the only one in my heart, always have been. Seeing my unmoved state, he turned his gaze to the curious guests. Darling, we've been married for 5 years, I've supported you through so many difficult times. Are you going to abandon our shared history and cast me aside just because of one small mistake? Grace, I know you hate me, but you can't do this to me. Don't air our dirty laundry in public. Are you deliberately making such a big scene to destroy me and our family? How could you be so cruel? If it weren't for me, when your parents passed away, could you have handled all that mess alone? Last year, when you were hospitalized like a dead person, who was caring for your every need? Grace, you can't be so heartless. Are you going to erase all the good I've done just because I made a small mistake? His words succeeded in making some of the softer-hearted relatives show expressions of pity. I gazed coldly at the man still putting on a show at my feet. My heart remained unmoved. I slowly withdrew my leg, looking down at him, then picked up the microphone. Marcus, even now, you are still unrepentant. My voice was not loud, but it clearly cut through all the commotion. Seduction might explain you sleeping together, but does it explain you embezzling company foo? NDS? A moment of weakness might explain making one mistake, but does it explain hundreds of hotel stays and a continuous stream of transfers over the past 2 years? Dirty laundry? When you transferred company money into her account, this stopped being dirty laundry and became a crime. With every sentence I spoke, Marcus's face grew a shade paler. You say you love me and don't want a divorce. I'd like to ask you, whether you don't want a divorce, or you're simply afraid of one. Are you afraid that if we divorce, not only will you lose half your assets, but my parents' inheritance will also vanish, won't it? A person so focused on personal gain, how could he let a golden opportunity slip through his fingers? Hearing me mention my parents' inheritance, Marcus's pupils constricted, and he gasped as if his innermost thoughts had been exposed. Ever since I discovered their affair at the hotel, Marcus had guarded against me like a thief every day. Though his phone password was still my birthday, WhatsApp and other messaging apps were locked with passwords. He not only turned off location services for all apps but also cleared the dash cam's memory every day before coming home. I slipped a voice recorder into his car when he went downstairs after falling asleep. But I didn't expect Marcus to discover it the very next day. He smashed the voice recorder to pieces right in front of me. Grace, are you ever going to stop? I told you Sarah and I are innocent. Why are you still secretly recording? From that day on, Marcus became more vigilant, starting to check the company's accounts, hoping to cover his tracks before I found out. He thought he was brilliant, but he didn't realize I had placed 2 voice recorders, one in the glove compartment and another under the seat. Finally, I had recorded the content I wanted. I publicly activated the voice recorder, and immediately, Marcus and Sarah's familiar voices filled the air. Marcus, when are you going to divorce that Dow? DY wife? Oh, darling, don't rush things. A divorce now wouldn't benefit us. Her parents left her tens of millions in inheritance. We wouldn't be able to spend it all in 3 lifetimes. I can wait, but the baby in my belly can't. I promise, as soon as the inheritance is ours, I'll take you and the baby far away, and we'll never come back. Hearing the recording, Marcus's face turned green, and he lunged to snatch the voice recorder. I scornfully tossed it to him. I had already made backups anyway. People finally recognized Marcus's true colors. No wonder he stubbornly refused to divorce. It turned out he wanted to take all of my family's inheritance. I raised my phone and dialed a number I had already prepared. Hello, 911? I want to report someone for alleged embezzlement of company funds and premeditated murder. The phone was on speakerphone, and the sound of the police report clearly reverberated throughout the room. Marcus collapsed to the ground, his face ashen. Soon, the ballroom doors were pushed open, and several police officers in uniforms walked in. I handed over all the evidence I had compiled to the police. As the cold handcuffs clicked shut around his wrists, Marcus finally realized that everything was over. As the police led him away, he turned back to look at me frantically, his eyes filled with venom and resentment. And I merely calmly met his gaze. The show, at last, was over. The next day, Marcus's affair made headlines. The scandal involving Marcus and Sarah became public knowledge. I immediately filed for divorce. Faced with overwhelming evidence, Marcus's infidelity, transfer of marital assets, and misappropriation of company funds were undeniable. Ultimately, the court granted our divorce. I recovered all my prenuptial assets and my rightful shares in the company. As the at-fault party, Marcus left with no assets. The company also held an emergency shareholders meeting, removing Marcus from all his positions and filing a lawsuit against him to reclaim all the funds he had misappropriated. The full force of the law and a lengthy prison sentence awaited him. Sarah didn't fare much better. Her floral studio went out of business because of the scandal, her friends shunned her, and she became a pariah, notorious and unable to make a life for herself in this city. The hardest part was that the court demanded she return every penny Marcus had spent on her, and even if she sold all her assets, she would still owe $500,000. Burdened with massive debt, Sarah had paint splashed on her door by debt collectors, and people pointed fingers at her whenever she went out. Her life became a living hell. Even her parents cursed her for disgracing the family name and threatened to disown her. Ultimately, with no other options, she resorted to prostitution, becoming a mistress exclusively for older men in their 40s. Until one day, she was caught by the man's legal wife, had her leg broken, and was never heard from again. Once all was settled, I sold the house where Marcus and I had spent 5 years of our marriage and moved to a new residence. After was jailed, he began sending me messages in various ways. At first, it was through his lawyer. Later, his parents came to plead with me. After that, he sent me letters, delivered by the prison guards, filled with remorse and declarations of love. In the letters, he reminisced about the good times we shared, from our college romance to the early days of our business. He bitterly recounted how he had been blinded by selfishness and misled by that venomous woman, Sarah. He swore he had truly repented, claiming I was the only person he had ever truly loved, and begged me to wait for him until his release, to give him a chance for atonement. I never opened a single one of those letters. I threw them directly into the trash can. This time, I would no longer live for anyone else, but only for myself, embracing the broader, freer life that awaited me. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments. Feel free to share your perspectives, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting stories. See you next time.